In this particular video, I'm going to share with you my 5-step frequency separation system, the system that I use to create high-end stunning images. I see a lot of YouTube channels giving free action packs of frequency separation, promising you photographers and retouchers how great your photos are going to be when you download those particular actions. What they don't put into consideration is that people use different cameras, they shoot in different formats, and who shoot large, some shoot small, some shoot RAW, some shoot JPEG, whatever format you choose. The kind of frequency required for an image shot by a 50 megapixel camera is completely different from that of a 20 megapixel camera, and so on. In this tutorial, I'm going to fully explain to you how frequency separation works. This tutorial is not just about teaching you the steps of skin retouching and how to use frequency separation, but it is going to give you a full understanding of what frequency separation is all about. By the end of this tutorial, I promise you your pictures are going to be different. You will do pictures that are going to add value to your craft as a photographer, to your craft as a retoucher. Stick with me, it's going to be quite a very long tutorial in comparison to the tutorials I've been making for you in the past days. My goal is to see you progress and improve your photography. If growing and improving your photography is that important to you, just subscribe to this channel right now. Let me just give you a second to subscribe. Okay, let's do this. Yes, I guess you finished subscribing. If you haven't done it, please go ahead and subscribe. I want to give you the best that I have so that we can make the photography industry in general better. Enough with the chit-chatting, let us dive into this tutorial. So what are the 5 steps you need to take? One, we're going to do what we call shape refinement. Then we're going to do the actual panel beating, the fast panel beating. Then we're going to do the blotch cleanup. Then we're going to do texture work, whereby we're going to refine the texture of the whole image. Then the last thing we are going to do is going to be tonal smoothening. Now, those are the 5 steps that we're going to take to create these stunning images. And it is the same system that I use while creating these high-end images. Yes, let's dive into this already. The first thing we're going to do now, we're going to do what we call image refinement, rather shape refinement. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come and, just duplicate this. So I'm just going to call this reshape. Yeah. So what do we do in this particular reshape now? In this particular thing, we're just going to put to make sure that her facial features are accentuated very well. So how do we go about this? You just come here into filter with this one, of course, selected. You come into filter and then you say liquify. So with the new versions of Photoshop, if it is a frontal image, definitely you can always just come in liquify through, but this is a bit on an old version of Photoshop. This is Photoshop CC 2014, so I'm going to do it manually. So what do? I get this particular shape here, the forward warp tool, and then I come, increase the size, and of course I don't put the pressure at 100, because if you put the pressure at 100 at its maximum, definitely you're going to get a bit of fast distortion. What you want to do is to get the shape of you just go on sculpting the shape slowly by slowly. So how are we going to do? I'm just going to come and maybe just bring this in a little bit, maybe give this a little bit of more shape and make the hair fuller. I'll raise the forehead just a little bit. Then I'm going to come right below the chin here, still using the forward warp tool. So I'm just going to come and just straighten it just a little bit. You make sure you do it not very, very, not using a lot of force, but just slightly, very little force. So I'll just push the nose a little bit in, then I'll come and increase this space just a little bit, and also increase this space just a little bit. Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to come and get this blot kind of tool, this tool actually, and then I'm just going to come and raise it just a little bit around that area. Then I'm just going to come and make the eyes a bit fuller, just one click, dark, and that, just like that. Then basically that is the first kind of reshaping that I've done. Then I'm also going to get this forward tool again, and then I'll come and just raise the collar a bit and pull this part of the collar down just a little bit. Then the other thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to come and raise this particular bit, and then also come and try to bring this more down so that I balance this shirt off, like, you know. Oh shit, okay, I don't know why it has frozen, sorry, forgive that. The filter is a bit heavy, so that's why. So I'll just come and, you know, just go some steps back by pressing Alt Control Z, because the computer froze. The filter is a bit heavy, but yeah. So basically, we've now done our first step. That first step is done. Now let me just zoom out and I show you the before and after. So where is the this is now the before. Now that's the before, that's the after. Before and after, basically you've done just simple basics of reshaping. Now I don't like having a lot of layers, but I usually flatten these particular ones. I usually match them, but for the sake of our tutorial, I'm just going to leave all these layers so that you get to see the steps we've taken in order for us to get these images, really, this image to its final phase. So what are we going to do next? Now the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to do the basic image cleanup, what I called the panel beating. This is now step 2. Now what is panel beating? Panel beating basically is where we come and remove all these particular big pimples, the ones you see, and you know, that first cleanup before we get into the frequency separation. We usually do this because we don't want to overly edit the image using frequency separation. You don't want to remove these in the frequency separation phase. Of course, we're going to look at what frequency separation is in the upfront, but you're going to see why I do this cleanup here. You know, you'll see the advantages of doing it before you go into the complex skin editing. So I'll just come and use the patch tool, you know, just circle those parts that I want to clean up, and then I drag this to a cleaner place. That's how I use that. I still come here, because when you master these steps, man, your pictures are just going to become wow. You'll be amazed by how much value, by how your images are going to look. Okay, just like that. So I just come and remove this big using the patch tool. So the patch tool is what I use to remove these big pimples and these big spaces that really just need to be edited there and then. Okay, so basically I just circle the part I want to remove, and then I drag it to a close by place so that it just covers up those particular, just like that. It is that simple, really. You know, this panel beating really helps us a lot, because when we get to the actual skin editing, we don't have to overly edit our image in a way that it turns out to be like a textured doll. You still want to maintain her skin textures. So that's why we do this initial panel beating, just to do away with this. Now, when you look at this particular image, she has no makeup, basically. No makeup, no nothing. So we are doing what a makeup artist would have done, basically, in our, you know. So I remove all this. This is where we do that first cleanup, so that every effect we apply on top of the image, you know, just sits on the whole image very well. Now we've worked on the first panel beating. That's how let me just remove this maybe as well. I don't know why I don't find this. Okay, now this is me being picky, but I think so. I'll still come here and also just take it straight into the corner, just like that. Yeah, I don't know, but it's me being picky. I wouldn't know in a normal circumstances. Really, you don't have to remove that. So we are done with panel beating. So what are we going to do next? Now the next phases we're going to go to, now we're going to go into what we call the blotch cleanup. So how do we do the blotch cleanup? Blotch cleanup basically is us matching the skin tones. Now let me show you what is happening here. Now when you look at below these particular we below her into her orbits, they're a bit dark. We have a lot of shadows in these particular orbits. Then when you look at the colors here and the colors around this mustache area, you will realize this part is dark and these are a bit bright. So that blotching phase is where we come and try to match these skin tones. When you look at this, you see this is abnormally dark. You see all these where we have her earpins and the like. Now those are the blotches we're going to remove. So how are we going to do this? Now this is where we begin doing the frequency separation bit. Now the frequency separation bit, this is where we separate the textures of an image from the colors of the image. So the image is divided in two kind of frequencies. We have textures, then we have skin tones. So what are the textures? Textures is what you see, these particular dots and the pores and the pimples and all these hairs. Those are the textures. Now, this brown color, those are the tones. So if we are to do any kind of blotching, now this is where we have to do the frequency separation bit. So how are we going to do it? So I'm just going to come and duplicate this reshape layer twice, just like this, by dragging it down here. So I'm just going to rename this tones, yeah, or colors. Then I'm going to rename this textures. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So what are we going to do now? Frequency separation is like a music. Look at it as a music. Look at it as a song. A song usually has an instrumental and it has also the vocals. So the vocals are a frequency and the instrumental is also a frequency. So when you separate the vocals and put them in their own layer, let us say, and also put the instrumental on its own layers, now you've separated them. So the pictures also work that way. So now this is what we're going to do. This helps us to work on the pictures, on the elements of the picture separately. So we're going to come into that and make sure this is not seen. We come into the texture layer, into the tonal layer here, right? Oops, sorry. So we're going to come, I press F so that I get my menu bar back. So I'll come into the tonal layer, I come into filter, I say blur, I say Gaussian blur. Okay, so I'm just going to first bring it to 0. So what are we going to do? I'm just going to come into this picture and I see which is my favorite skin texture that I would really love to maintain. I think I love these textures around the nose. So I'm going to come make sure I come and blur these out until I see that this part of the nose is smooth. Okay, I don't want you to cram numbers because depending on the kind of camera you use, depending on the kind of the focal length, or rather whether if a picture is half, definitely you need a different frequency. If it is an extreme close-up, you'll need a different kind of blur. So what you have to master here is that you make sure that whatever you're blurring out here, everything actually you want to maintain in the final image has to be blurred out here. Every texture that you want to maintain. I know it sounds a bit, controversial, but is it controversial? But I don't know, whatever the word is. But everything that you want to blur, you want to maintain in the final image has to be blurred out here. So I want to maintain all this texture. So I come and blur it out, Yes, I think, let me come and blur it out more as well. I think this is good. At least I see the skin is smooth. So don't take the blur to the extreme and don't make it too little. When you make it too little, the picture will turn out to be too smooth. And when you take it too far, the picture will also turn out to be almost not edited. So the sweet spot is where you see at least the features, but the skin texture is somehow blurred out. So you come here and say, okay. You come here and say, image, actually on the texture layer, you say, apply image. So you come here and change the blending mode to subtract, because remember, we're now subtracting the texture off the bottom layer from subtract. So you put the scale at 2 and the offset at 128. So you come here and into the layer merged, and we choose the tonal layer. Remember, we are subtracting the textures. The textures were blurred out in the first blur. So we come and subtract them from this layer, and then we say, okay, So now you see how the textures are up. Now these are the textures. They have been separated now from the bottom layer. So what we're going to come and do, we're just going to come here and say linear light. Now let's look at this. When we put this in a group, I'm going to put this in a group, and I'm going to name this frequency. I'm just going to put it FS for frequency separation. Now this, when you say look at the before and after, it is the same image. Basically we've not changed. Now this particular FS group is the same as this, but the difference between this and this particular one is that this one has its frequencies separated. We have the texture separated from the tones. Now that is the difference, but the image has to look the same. So what are we going to do now? Now we're going to do our blotching. We're going to match the skin tones. We're going to remove these blotches, these dark patches from the image. So you come here and say create a new layer, and I'm going to name this blotching. Okay, I'm running very fast in this particular tutorial, but if you want a step-by-step now, everywhere we skip no part, I have for a high-end retouching course, the Retouching Secrets Masterclass, that many of you have already joined, and I've seen a lot of you already improve through that Retouching Secrets Masterclass. You can click the first link in the description below to join the masterclass, because it will help you a lot and save you hours and hours, where you're going to see me edit different kinds of images. Here I'm just going through just to give you the basic framework so that you start something for yourself. Okay, so we're going to come here, and then I get the brush tool here, and then I'm going to reduce the flow of this to something like a 3, because I just want to come and build it slowly by slowly. Okay, so what do I do now? This is a bit of a shadow, but I'm just going to get the brush tool and get my press Alt on my keyboard and pick a color that I would want to fill in there. So I'll just come here and just paint over these black patches like that. So I'll still come and zoom out a little bit. So same applies to this particular zone. I just come and pick this color, and then I just paint over, you know, not in a way that I lose the colors, or maybe that I flatten it out, but in a way that really makes the image look nice. So I'll just come and still press Alt on my keyboard and click this particular color, and then I'll come and paint here slowly. You know, just come paint over. I'll do the same here. And fill in all these. I'll still come here, click around that area, and still paint over. I'll still come, click over here, and still just paint over. I know it feels like you're not seeing an effect, but trust me, the effect is there. Let me just show you the before and after. Look at this. That's the before and that's the after. Before, that's the after. That's the before, that's the after. So you see, this is the power of using. Still, I'll come here and choose another color from around here, and then I just paint over. I just want to build it slowly by slowly, because at the end of the day, don't overly paint it, because when you overly paint it, you're going to lose out on the shadow. You may end up making the whole image flat. But what you do is you just want to have, you know, to just bring back that brown color into those particular areas that seem to be black. So same applies here. I'll just come and, you know, just paint over, just to lighten this a bit up, just like that. Now when you look at this, now this is a complete shadow. You see it is a shadow. It has a bit of browns, but when you look at these particular zones, instead it is I don't know, they look like stress kind of textures. You do rather straight kind of tones. So those are the ones you want to be eliminating. So look at this. That is the before, that is the after. So the next thing we're going to do, and now we're just going to work on the tones and align the tones. Before actually we align the tones, let's work on the texture layer first. Now for the texture layer, we are now going to remove these very small spots. So how do we make them come to on top of the screen so that we see them? So you come here and then you come and say black and white. You create a black and white layer, and what we do, you're going to crush all the reds. When you crush all the reds, you're going to see all those bad textures, pimples come to on top. So you go back to our layer section and you select the texture layer again, and now we're going to get the spot healing tool and begin removing these pimples. Now it's good that it has happened. You see why we have a black dot? We have a black dot because sample all layers is selected. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Alt Z or Command Option Z if you're using a Mac to undo that. Then I'm going to come and just remove this. So I'm just going to get this and then select the texture layer again, and then I'm just going to come and just click on top of these small pimples and just begin removing them. You know what, because I use the black and white layer because it brings all the pimples on top, you know, so that I don't leave them out. It is these small things that really make your images look outstanding. At the end of the day, all photographers are going to do, you know, to do the frequency separation, but what is going to make your images different is, you know, your attention to detail. You know, I usually use this black and white layer because it helps me at least remove most of those ugly pimples. You know, there are certain things that the conscious mind may not pick up, but the subconscious mind will always and always pick them up. You know, some people would never explain why they prefer some other photographers' pictures other than those of. There is something about his pictures, but it is this attention to detail that makes your work really different. You see that you remove also these white spots, these ones here. You know, at the end of the day, you want to be the go-to photographer when somebody is looking for images that are really amazing, you know. My computer is a bit slow because I'm running an After Effects project in the background, so the RAM is kinda, you know, it is running a lot of things basically in the background. There is an After Effects project I'm working on. Yeah, that is why it is. Let's see. Okay, all these from the mouth. So basically, let us remove the black and white layer to see what we have worked on. Now, isn't this amazing how we've worked on the texture already? Now, let us look at this. That's the before and that's the after. Before and after. Before. Isn't that amazing, guys? So the next thing now we're going to do, we are now going to work on the tonal layers. Now, I think we've worked on the texture. We've refined our textures. The next thing now we're going to do, we're now going to do tonal smoothening, which is even actually the last step in this particular tutorial. So what we're going to do, we're going to come into the tones right here. And then I think I'm going to remove also this. It looks like a birthmark. I had left it there, but I'm just going to come and remove it. So we're going to come into the tonal layer right here, and we're going to use the Gaussian blur technique. Some of you use the mixer brush technique, but the problem I have with the mixer brush is that you need to be an artist. You need to be very good at, what should I say, at sculpting in order for you to pull off you know, precision with the mixer brush, because the mixer brush basically it's you smudging the colors through the whole particular thing. This is why I use the Gaussian blur, because with the Gaussian blur you get more of what should I call it, your images are more refined and more precise actually with colors, even if you're not an artist, even if you're not a sculptor. So what you do, you just come and select this particular patchwork according to tones. Now this is like a highlight I've selected, so you make sure the feather is at 18 or 35, between 18 and 35. depending on the size of the image. Now this is I shot this with a 50 megapixel camera, so that is why I'm using 18. But if the image is so far away, definitely you can go, if the image is an extreme close-up, like a typical beauty shot, you can use around 35. But this is a bit like a semi-half portrait, like a headshot. This is why I'm using 18 feather. So I'll come here and say go. So I'll first put it at 0. So, and then I'll just come and increase, you know, this until I see that the texture is refined. Now you see how it has worked. Just come until you see. Now this is too much for me, for my taste. So I'll just come and tone it down because it has started making the image flat. I still don't want to lose out on the shape of the face and the highlight. You know, you see, sometimes when you overly do this, the picture turns out to be pale. You don't want the image to become pale. So I'll just come and crush it down just a little bit around until I get that sweet spot. I think that is okay for my test. Then I'll just come, still select this particular zone, and then I'll come and press Ctrl F or Alt Command F in order for me to repeat the action. And then I'll still come over this area here, and I still press Ctrl F to repeat, or Command F. If you're using new versions of Photoshop, definitely you press Ctrl Alt F to repeat the action, like that. I go on selecting those particular small bits, and then like that. Sorry, I'm running an After Effects project in the background. That is why my computer is a bit slow. Should I pause the project? So just come, you know, see it from afar. I select this particular part like that. I'll still come here. I press Ctrl F to repeat the action. Still come here on the nose, do the same. Sometimes I even leave the nose highlight, you know, untouched, really depending on the image, but let us do this. Now this is too much for me. I don't want to lose out on the nose highlight, so I'll keep it very mild. I'll come also here like that. I'll come and do this as well. And then I'll come here. Select that, press Ctrl F just to, until, so you see how we are doing these amazing like that. Still, you know, I'm going to be fast in this one because this is just a tutorial. But if you're doing client work, you can always be more precise, more, you know, more detailed. But here I'm just showing you the simple steps that you have to take to create those amazingly stunning images. I'll still come here around the neck area and do blur, and I do still a Gaussian blur. Now there you have it. Now those are the 5 steps. Let's look at the before and after. I'll also put these both in a group so that we look at the before and after. Now this is where we've come from. Look at this. That's the before and that's the after. That's the before, that's the after. Now I'll just zoom it in just for you to see. Before, after, before, after. Now that is my 5-step frequency separation system on how to create those super amazing images. If you want to learn the whole high-end retouching process step by step with no step skipped, where you see me work on wedding photos, how you use these high-end retouching secrets on event images, on portraits, on beauty shots, and how you can create that high-end fashion glam feel in your images, click the first link in the description below and join the Retouching Secrets Masterclass so that you take your photography to the next level. And if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, come on, subscribe to this channel right now, and I'll see you in the next video, and adios.